Hi guys, it's Andrew again. Today I get to install the new soft touch switches on the Statler in the Gammill studio, and I thought you might want to follow along with me, see how it's done, so that when it's time to install them on your machine at home, you'll be more comfortable doing it. Now, compatibility. The soft touch switches are going to fit nicely on all Statler machines. They're also going to fit on all Vision machines. If you've got an Elevate on your Vision, soft touch switches will still fit. If you've upgraded your Vision to a Vision 2, but your handle switches are still the red and black switches, soft touch switches will still fit. But if you have a Vision 2, your handle switches are A, B on the left and C, D on the right, the soft touch switches do not fit. All right, they do not fit. Now, what if you have a minus machine? Those are the non-stitch regulated, the older Gammills. The soft touch switches will not fit on those either. If you've got a plus machine, nearly all plus machines can take the soft touch switches, but there are a very small number that will require a dealer installed switch conversion kit. If your handle switches look like any of these that you see right now, please do not proceed with the installation. Return the kit to your dealer because the soft touch switches are not compatible with your machine. Now here's the interesting one. We call this the momentary switch, and there are two versions of it that are identical in every way except a very small part of how it's etched on the side. So the NO, take a look here on the picture, you see where it has N period, O period on the side of the switch, or some of them have N period, C period. Now you're going to need a magnifying glass to be able to see the printing on the side of your switch. Now here's the thing. These two letters look really, really similar. So take a look at the right-hand side of the letter C and see if it's actually an O. All right. If you've got the NO, you can do the upgrade, but since your current switches are likely soldered in place, you're going to need to get a hold of your Gammill dealer. You need 8 of these little wire connectors that you see on the screen here. The part number is 81-1926. You're going to need 2 for each switch, so you have to get 8 of them. And hold off on doing the install until you've got those parts on hand. If you've got the NC version of that momentary switch, your machine is not compatible with Easy Touch. Now, if it is a plus machine, again, like I mentioned before, your dealer has a kit that changes over the electronics so that it would be compatible. Okay, now that we've verified that our machine is compatible with the soft touch upgrade, how should we get started? First, we need to gather our materials. We're going to need a pair of pliers. The ones I have here are needle nose, but they can be virtually any pliers. We're obviously going to need the soft touch switches. There will be 4 of them. Some of the machines need wire connectors, so you would need those 8 pink wire connectors. And finally, in some cases, a drop of dish soap is going to come in handy. So I've got my bottle of dish soap right here. So first we're going to verify that the machine is working properly prior to the upgrade. So I'm going to push my single stitch button, make sure that works. If you've got a plus that has a switch up here for the needle position, go ahead and flip that switch and verify that it does a half stitch as it's supposed to. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and go into the basting mode. Verify that your start-stop switch is working. I've just pushed start in basting, and as you can see, it's working. When I push stop, it doesn't baste anymore. I'm going to check the back as well. Single stitch. And start stop. Okay, perfect. Now that we've verified proper operation of the machine, we're going to turn it off. If you've got a Statler machine, you can just turn off the red M switch. That cuts power to the motors of the machine, but still leaves the lights on. If you have a hand-guided machine, I recommend turning the machine off and then unplugging the machine from the wall. So I'm going to do that now. Now we get to the exciting part. We're going to start replacing switches. The old switch and its shroud should pull straight up out of the foam grip. I'm going to wiggle it a little bit and it pulls right out. Now on this machine the wires are pretty short, so I'm going to grip each one with the pliers and wiggle it a little bit as I pull the switch up. There's the first one, and there's the second one. Now that the switch is out, I'm going to pull off the foam handle grip. This one comes off pretty easily. I'm holding down on the machine so that I don't lift it off the table, and then I'm rotating the grip as I pull it upwards, and it comes right off. Many times when you go to unplug the old switch, one of the little tabs on the switch will rip out of the bottom of the switch, and it'll be left stuck in one of these pink connectors. All right? So if you have a little metal tab left inside one of your pink connectors, that's because it got ripped out of the bottom of the switch during the removal. If that happens, no big deal. Use your pliers, grab the tab, lift it up and out. It really helps if you wiggle a little bit. Now this particular switch, when it was installed onto these pink connectors, it stretched out the pink connectors just a little. And so you'll notice that when you try to just connect the little metal tab together, it just kind of falls right in there. It doesn't grip like it should. And that's to be expected. That's one of the quirks of this particular switch that I'm replacing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pliers on the pink wire holder, and I'm just going to look at the opening of it and squeeze down gently to push it kind of back together. And I'm going to do that on both of the connectors so that they grab a little bit tighter. Now most of the time your wires colors will be black and red, and you just match black to black and red to red. If, however, your machine has different colors, don't worry about it. You can connect any color wire and it'll work just fine. When you push the metal tab into the pink connector, it should be firm. And if it's not firm, you need to squeeze that connector together just a little bit more. All right, that one was nice and tight. And here's a trick for you. If you balance the connector, the bottom side of the connector, on the metal pipe there, on the edge of the metal pipe, it'll actually kind of hold it there for you and support it, which does make it easier to push the wire in. All right, so now that your wires are connected, one at a time, you want to push the pink connectors up inside the plastic tube. So I'm going to push one in first and then follow it with the second one. It is very important to cram those into that tube because it is a protective tube. All right. Now in most cases, because the new foam grip is a little bit bigger than the old one, you'll be able to just push it straight down and on until it stops. Now you can see I'm wiggling it a little bit, but I'm not twisting it round and round. because if I did that, it would spiral up the wires inside, and that would be bad. So I'm going to push it down until it stops, and there you go. One switch installed. So now I'll go to replace my left handle switch. Basically the same process. I'll lift it up. Disconnect my two wires. Pull the handle grip up. Now what happens if the handle grip won't come off? I would recommend, there's two possibilities. One is that you can cut it most of the way through with a razor blade and kind of peel it off. Or you can also use a pair of scissors, not your good scissors, and cut along the grip to free it from the machine. I would just try to not scratch up the paint that's underneath it. But if you do scratch up the paint, it's not the end of the world because the new foam grip will cover, but it may not come as far down as your old grips. So if you are going to scratch it maybe as you're cutting the old grip off, start at the top so that when you get it most of the way loose, you can just kind of rip it off and you're not scraping the paint down lower. All right, little tip for you there. So, again, these wires are super loose. They will not stick together until I squeeze these connectors. Okay, so on these little connectors, I'm just going to take my pliers and I'm looking in here at the space, the opening, and I'm going to squeeze it while I kind of watch the opening, and I can see it get smaller, which is what needs to happen. And I'm going to do that on both of them, so that my wires will fit tightly. Black to black and red to red, unless you have different colors. Don't freak out if you have different colors. I'm going to take my black wire first, balancing the wire connector on the edge of the metal tube makes it slightly easier because you don't have to support it. And I've got my black wire here, and I'll just slide it down in, kind of wiggle it a little bit, and it's good and tight, which is what we want. Then I'm going to do the red one. Get the black one out of the way. Do the red one. There we go, nice and tight. Now jam both of those up inside the plastic protective shroud tube. All right, and then the whole thing goes on. So if you have one of the machines where the grip is super tight to put on and it's getting stuck when you put it on, don't just keep shoving it on there. Pull it off if it gets stuck. Use a little dish soap around the outside to lubricate the surface. One drop is plenty. And then push it on, and it'll slide on really, really slick with that lubrication. Now, depending on temperature and humidity, it'll take a little while for the dish soap to dry out and harden up. Days or at the most a couple of weeks. So for the time being, it's still really slippery. Don't try to lift the machine ever with the foam handle grips, and don't ever rotate it around and around. A little bit of wiggle is fine, but if you go round and round, it's going to twist up the wires inside, and that's a nightmare. Okay, with all 4 switches installed, we are done. Plug in your machine, turn it on, and test the same operations as before on both the front and the rear. Test the single stitch, the needle position if it has one, and the start and stop. That's it for today. If you need any help, there's so many ways you can reach out. You can contact your Gammill dealer. You can reach out to the community of quilters on Facebook in one of the several Gammill Facebook groups. You can phone in for Gammill support or just use the live chat feature on gammill.com. Whichever way is easiest for you, there's lots of people in the Gammill family to help you.